No, my boy! My dear sweet boy!
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 ungodly Kratos kills.
I am still quick enough for you.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most violent deaths that Kratos has doled out. These include everyone from gods to titans to mythological creatures. Which god of war kill did you think was the most brutal? Let us know in the comments.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Heimdall, god of war Ragnarok.
So angry.
Since Heimdall spends most of his time on screen threatening Kratos' son, his death was understandably inevitable. Kratos goes up against the Norse god along with the ferocious pet in Vanaheim. After taking care of the beast, the god of war takes aim at Heimdall, who assumes his ability of foresight will save him. But with a new magical spear in his arsenal, Kratos soon gains the upper hand.
You actually hit me!
After an intense fight, Kratos slams the god's head into the ground before choking the life from him. Maybe the death would have been more vicious in Kratos' earlier days, but watching him slowly strangle the life from Heimdall and seeing his glowing eyes fade to nothing is still brutal and cold. Elephantor / Juggernaut, god of war Ascension. This minigame boss looks like an absolute force to deal with. It's not so much of a challenge for Kratos, however, and goes down much like his other enemies. The Juggernaut tries to ram Kratos and use his mace to deadly effect, only for Kratos' durability to negate these attacks. The Ghost of Sparta eventually wears down the beasts to bring it to its knees, where he repeatedly stabs the monster in its skull. By the end, Kratos has slashed at the creature so intensely that he leaves its brain exposed before putting it out of its misery. It shows how monsters of mythology just aren't up to Kratos' level, and he makes them seem like nothing more than cannon fodder. Persian King, god of war, Chains of Olympus.
It is not evil that I bring, Spartan. I bring the might of Persia and the sacrament of purification.
Underestimating Kratos has a very painful cost, as the Persian king would soon learn. Kratos finds him laying siege to Attica and confronts him. Not that this phases the Persian king. He scoffs at Kratos' threats and initiates a fight. Although the Persian king is aided by the Ifrit demon, Kratos still manages to cripple and defeat him. With no choice left, the Persian king attempts to beg for his life. But Kratos is in no mood to forgive.
I won't take your riches, but I will take your life.
Taking a gold-filled chest, Kratos bashes his adversary's head in until his skull is crushed. Ironically, Kratos uses the same chest the Persian king attempted to bargain for his life with. Now that's what we call a hard-hitting reality check. Theseus, god of war 2.
Come forward. Let us finally see who is the greatest warrior in all of Greece.
Theseus stands in Kratos' way by holding the key to the steeds of time. Kratos initially decides to spare Theseus, but the poor bastard doesn't heed the warning. Bitter over Kratos' status as the greatest warrior in Greece, Theseus challenges him in a duel to the death. He progressively amps up Kratos' rage by fighting dirty, using his Minotaur goons rather than battle one-on-one. By the time Kratos knocks Theseus down from his perch, he's in no mood to play around anymore. Kratos proceeds to jam Theseus' head between the open door and smashes it repeatedly, enough times to make him regret picking the fight in the first place. Perseus, god of war 2.
I have faced test after test in search of the sisters. And now you have dashed it all away.
Nobody likes a drama queen, especially one as cocky as this. When Kratos encounters Perseus in a bathhouse, the latter convinces himself this is a test from the Sisters of Fate. Perseus foolishly tells Kratos where he's standing, despite using a helmet of invisibility, enabling Kratos to perceive him. By the end of the fight, Kratos destroys all of Perseus' weapons and contemplates drowning his enemy. Thinking otherwise, he then tosses Perseus straight through the wall onto a hook outside. Perseus' final moments involve smashing through concrete and painful impalement, but he did have it coming. He gets to leave the room he was trapped in, although he's too dead to care by that point. Balder, god of war.
This path you walk, vengeance, you will find no peace. I know.
The final boss fight with Balder is one hell of an action fest. Kratos and Atreus have to contend with the interference of Freya as she controls the body of the frost giant Thamur, while also dealing with her vengeful, invulnerable son Balder until he gets snipped by Atreus' mistletoe arrow. Now rendered mortal, Balder is subsequently bested. Still bitter at his mother for causing his condition, Balder attempts to kill Freya.
The cycle ends here. Must be better than this.
Only for Kratos to take matters into his own hands and break Balder's neck right in front of his grieving mother. While his intention may have been to save, there's something stone cold about how he claims Balder's life so effortlessly.
And you do not know me.
I know enough.
Magni, god of war.
The All-Father demands it.
No.
Good.
Unlike previous games, the 2018 soft reboot isn't as violent because of the change in Kratos' personality. Still, pushing him too far brings out his trademark brutality, as Magni would painfully learn. He and his brother Modi stalk Kratos and Atreus on Odin's orders, but make the mistake of underestimating him. Kratos eventually turns the tide by tapping into his inner rage, overpowering wherein he buries his axe deep into Magni's skull. It may have been a quick death, but the sight of his mutilated body leaves no doubt that it was anything but pleasant.
How did you?
Gaia, god of war 3.
You live?
My world, it bleeds because of you.
The climax of God of War 3 is kickstarted by the intervention of Gaia in the clash between Zeus and Kratos. The Titan's size becomes her disadvantage, as Zeus and Kratos escape through her body right to her heart. The father and son continue their battle while destroying Gaia's defenses from the inside. Kratos ultimately pins Zeus up against Gaia's heart and drives the Blade of Olympus through both of them. Even if you're the size of a mountain, there's no coming back from that kind of heart attack. Prometheus, god of war 2.
I no longer walk with the gods. Who has placed you in this torment?
Burning to death might sound like a horrible prospect, but Prometheus doesn't seem that bothered by it. Kratos finds him chained and devoured by an enchanted bird, which he's experienced for centuries. Prometheus asks Kratos to put him out of his misery by casting him into the fires of Olympus, which he ultimately obliges. Of course, falling into fire was never going to be much fun, and Prometheus is burned to a crisp as a result. It's a gnarly way to go, and not exactly an upgrade from being beaked day in and day out.
His flesh has tainted the fires of Olympus and embodied it with the power of the Titans.
Hades, god of war 3.
I will see you suffer as I have suffered.
The god of the underworld is understandably pretty sour at Kratos for taking the life of his wife Persephone, and so jumps at the chance for revenge. During the scuffle, Kratos gets his hands on the hooks of Hades, a weapon powerful enough to even rip the soul out of its creator. After being manhandled to hell and back, the weakened Hades is helpless as his soul leaves his body, killing him as well. To add insult to injury, the souls of hell plan their own revenge by lashing out at Hades' corpse, dragging the god of the underworld to the depths of River Styx. Pollux Castor, god of war, Ascension.
My, quite persistent, isn't he?
These conjoined twins usurp the Oracle of Delphi's temple and assume they can intimidate Kratos to leave. But the pair learn the ghost of Sparta isn't to be trifled with. After chasing Pollux and Castor through the temple, Kratos delivers a crushing end to the pair. Castor's life is cut short by having Pollux ripped out of his body, leaving the lesser brother at Kratos' mercy. Having been severed from the host body, the deformed Pollux is easy pickings for Kratos, who reduces him to a blood smear at the bottom of his sandals. Ares, god of war.
You are still just a mortal.
Kratos' original overlord's comeuppance was well and truly earned, and just as barbaric. After surviving Ares' attempts to play mind games with his guilty conscience, Kratos goes toe-to-toe with his predecessor, ultimately claiming victory. Not one to fall for Ares' plea for mercy, Kratos delivers a chilling one-liner before driving a colossal sword right through him.
You succeeded.
For Kratos, this kill is his most cathartic yet, as he finally gets to avenge his family, complete with all the blood and explosions you could want.
Defeating a god, Ares was no more.
Kronos, god of war 3.
The murderer of Gaia enters my tomb. Kronos!
No one is safe from Kratos, not even the largest titan of them all. Blaming Kratos for his incarceration in the pit of Tartarus, Kronos tries to eat his would-be grandson. This backfires big time, as Kratos uses the Blade of Olympus to slice through Kronos' innards, but that's just the beginning. From there, he tears up Kronos' nails and rams a crystal spike through his jaw, all before bringing his blade down right through the giant's skull. It's a Herculean execution, and one of Kratos' most cinematic murders to date. King Midas, god of war, ghost of Sparta.
I'm warning you!
There are times when Kratos' actions are purely reactionary, and others where he's just downright cruel. Midas' death happens simply because Kratos sees a way out and not caring about the torment it might cause. After witnessing the king's ability to turn things into gold, he decides to use it for his own means. Kratos corners a whimpering Midas, savagely beats him, and then drags him toward the river of lava he wants to cross. As Midas attempts to defend himself, Kratos throws him into the lava waterfall. This turns the entire stream into solid gold and allows Kratos to pass, at the expense of Midas drowning in burning anguish. Poseidon's princess, god of war 3.
Lord Kratos, no! Please! Please, leave me be! I beg of you!
We see Kratos heartlessly sacrifice an innocent soldier to a fiery death in the first game, but he ups the ante with his brutality in the threequel. With a crank blocking Kratos' path, he improvises by using an innocent person to hold a heavy door open. Poseidon's princess has to suffer this fate, whose cries of fear fall on deaf ears. Kratos drags her away from Poseidon's chambers without a care or concern, trapping her between the crank to make his way past the door. Her gruesome remains can be seen if Kratos heads back, if you're morbidly curious enough.
Lord Kratos! Do not leave me!
Hermes, god of war 3.
A coward's words, Kratos. You don't try to catch me because you know you can't.
Hermes makes the mistake of taunting Kratos one too many times and pays the price. His mockery over Kratos' speed compared to him gives the latter the idea to target Hermes' empowered boots. Giving chase, Kratos manages to outsmart the speedster god before claiming the boots for himself, by slicing off Hermes' feet. There's a definite sense of sadistic pleasure here, and while Hermes was a king-sized jackass, seeing his demise cause a widespread plague that ravages Greece purely because Kratos wanted some fancy new boots seems frighteningly grim. Poseidon, god of war 3.
Zeus should have kept you where you belong.
The god of the sea has the unfortunate task of facing Kratos straight out of the gate. Wanting to make a statement to the other Olympians, Kratos delivers a no-holds-barred beatdown that we see from Poseidon's point of view. It's made clear just how fiendish Kratos is when we witness his Spartan savagery up close. Poseidon's attempts to escape are fruitless, and Kratos proceeds to gouge his eyes out before breaking his neck. Now that's how you start a divine killing spree. Zeus, God of War 3.
Don't confuse this object, this construction of Hephaestus with your own flesh and blood.
The king of the gods is one stubborn geezer, to the extent that it took all of Kratos' cunning, strength, and wrath to finish him off. After impaling him with the blade of Olympus, overcoming his astral world, and about 1,000,000 bolts of lightning, Kratos ultimately takes down his daddy with his fists. Watching from Kratos' perspective, we see him deliver punch after punch, leaving the screen filled with Zeus' blood. It's unclear exactly when Zeus breathes his last, given that he's reduced to such a bloody pulp it blankets the screen crimson. Hercules, God of War 3.
Hello, brother.
This is not between us, Hercules.
Isn't it? You were always Zeus's favorite.
Kratos is surprisingly lenient toward his brother when they meet and offers to spare his life. Alas, Hercules is too jealous of Kratos' achievements to consider this act of mercy, initiating a godly punch-out. Systematically foiling Hercules' nefarious tactics in combat, Kratos ends up claiming his brother's Nemean cestus gauntlets, which he uses to pulverize Hercules' face in. The final blow crashes through the arena floor, and Kratos' victory assured when he tosses Hercules' corpse aside, left to rot in the sewers. Helios, God of War 3.
And I promise to repay you in full.
If you wish to repay me, tell me where I can find a flame of Olympus.
The god of the sun has the dubious distinction of facing all of Kratos' wrath. After constantly interfering with Kratos' climb of Mount Olympus, Helios' chariot is shot down. The wounded Helios tries to trick Kratos into accepting his allegiance. After Kratos stomps those attempts out, there's nothing left but for Helios to count his last moments, before Kratos rips his head right off. Helios' pain is so great that his head continues to scream even after its dismembered remains are in Kratos' possession. This death goes to show that there are no limits to Kratos' brutality once he's made up his mind to snuff out a life.
My death will not lead you to Zeus.
That is where you are wrong.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.